Hey, good morning. My name is Mike Ferrara. You may remember me from such radio shows as Fantasy Baseball Code Red, Fantasy Football Code Red. In my spare time, I'm also a new grandfather. The second time, fellas. And I also play guitar in a couple of bands, but today I'm here on the Glory Days show to show these two clowns a thing or two about fantasy football. You see, they think they know a lot about fantasy football. They've been playing it, about 30 years combined, you two?
30 years.
And I believe, if I have my facts straight, 3 championships between the two of you?
Just 3.
Okay. I won 3 last year.
3 last year. Oh my
Can I get a tight shot here, fellas? little tight shot on the trophy just to legitimize my being here. So it's going to be a great day. We're going to talk a lot about fantasy football. Stick around. A lot of information you'll be able to use. We're also going to talk about the Cowboys.
Boo.
Boo. Boo. And also our 2 local teams, the Jets and Giants. So get ready for your best hour of your sports week. It's coming up right now on Glory Days. Stay tuned.
Hello again, everybody. Today is Saturday, August 29th, 2015, and you are watching the Glory Days Show with Bruce and Disco. My name is Paul Discofani. That guy over there is my friend Bruce Oler, and this guy over here is Mike Ferrara, who will be joining us today during the show.
The Admiral.
Kyle Melnick and Eric Mikhailov are behind the glass, and you're joining us on the N Radio TV network, where we broadcast live from Studio C in the great state of New York. Good morning, Admiral, and welcome.
Disco.
How are you?
How are you, my friend? It's been a while.
Doing okay. We're really excited. You know, today.
Good to see you there,
my buddy, Mr. B.
in the car on the way over here, I found out that today, Saturday, is National Fantasy Football Draft Day.
Wow.
So it's an amazing thing. You know, you're talking about millions of people that play fantasy football, and nobody knows more than this guy, and he's got the trophy to prove it.
Yes, I do. And I'm going to show it to you several times during the course of this show. You know what? It is crazy, though, fellas. I mean, you know, fantasy sports
Absolutely
has grown at such a ridiculous rate over the past, 20 years, I guess it's been? 30 years? You know, I remember getting started myself in the late 80s, and it was, something that we did, with a group of guys,
right.
And there was no technology involved. You got together, you got a couple of cases of beer, you drafted your team. Some idiot volunteered to manually calculate the stats.
That was Disco. That was Disco.
Every single week.
In 1982, I was voted commissioner for life.
You got a life sentence. So now, now it's a huge money-making enterprise that,
I think what did it obviously is technology.
It is.
You know, the fact that commissioners no longer had to do everything by hand, and they didn't have to Xerox pieces of paper that got sent out to everybody every week.
Right.
Now it's really, I wouldn't say it's taken the fun out of it, but what's happened is you've lost the intimacy of it.
I will agree with that. There was an intimacy, and now you're in a situation where you have to learn how to separate, because we're sports fans.
Yep,
sure.
All 3 of us. I mean,
Absolutely.
we're diehard Mets fans.
Right.
You guys are Jets fans. I'm a Giants fan, but you
I
have to
love
be
this.
I'm sorry.
I love this too.
And Islanders. I'm a Rangers fan, but you know what? I mean, you've got to be able to separate. You're watching the Mets game, and you have to not care that the Mets are beating the hell out of your pitcher on your fantasy team. Because
Well, you know, we learned that early because that, to me, and again, being a long-suffering Jets fan, the Jets have not been good at all since we started doing this. Maybe a couple of
Since you've been
years.
breeding.
You know what I mean? So it was great not to have to pay attention to only the Jet game.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I mean, it does, really broaden your experience as a sports fan because, how much interest did you have in watching the Brewers play the Cubs?
Right, that's true.
10 years or 20 years ago, you had no interest whatsoever. So now I really get a greater enjoyment out of sports in general.
Yeah.
As long as you can keep your focus on your favorite team.
So let's talk a little bit about the draft. Okay, about drafting your players. Let's talk about quarterbacks.
Okay.
Okay. Now, quarterback, depending, I guess, on your league, and we're not going to get into. If you don't know about fantasy football, we're not going to tell you anything you've never heard before. But let's take a look at the guys that you think we must have.
Okay.
If they're available, you should take them.
You bring up a good point. I mean, every fantasy league has a different scoring system. So, basically what we'll talk about today is standard scoring systems.
Okay.
If you're in a league where it's very touchdown heavy, or you're in a league where your quarterback gets points for completions, it throws everything else out of whack. But there are three guys right now. I mean, there's a changing of the guard basically occurring right in front of our eyes right now in the National Football League. I mean, right now you've got three guys that are must draft quarterbacks. The first guy is Aaron Rodgers. He's the 2014 NFL MVP. Threw for 4,300 yards last year, 38 touchdowns, only 5 interceptions.
Wow.
That's right, because I guess in some of these leagues, the interceptions count against you, right?
They do, but
Yeah.
think about the percentage. When you throw about 600 passes over the course of the season,
And
and
only
only 5 of them went to the wrong team, that's pretty damn good.
That's right. Geno
So-
Smith could have 5 interceptions in a game.
Yeah.
In a quarter.
Exactly. So, what you've got here is just a super efficient quarterback. Still only 31 years old. If you're in a dynasty league, you can keep him for a couple of years and feel comfortable knowing that.
Like
And that's
he
my
does.
guy.
Yeah.
That's one of the only 2 guys I protected.
Well,
It's him.
you think about it. I mean, you got guys now like Peyton Manning is 39 years old,
Yeah.
Drew Brees 36 years old. I mean, these guys are old now, and Aaron
How much can they keep it up?
Aaron Rodgers is not only relatively young, but he's a guy that played behind Brett Favre for a lot of years, so there's not a lot of tread on those tires, or there's still a lot of tread on those tires, I should say. The other guy, is a must-have this year is Andrew Luck on the Colts. Here's a guy that threw for 4,700 yards last year, 40 touchdowns, did throw 16 picks, but this kid's 25 years old.
Right.
And he
Tremendous upside.
He stepped into Manning's shoes and didn't skip a beat.
He's one of those guys that right out of the gate was great.
Right out of the gate.
Right out of the gate. And you don't get too many of those guys in fantasy football. We'll talk a little bit about that type of a thing when we get to the rookies later in the
Yes,
show.
yeah.
But there are very few guys that right out of the gate are incredibly productive fantasy guys, and Andrew Luck was one of them.
Yeah, yeah. And, he did that without the same cast of
That's true.
characters that Manning had, if you think about it. I
Right.
mean, Manning had Harrison and Reggie Wayne, and he had,
Right.
Luck doesn't have that luck.
He doesn't have that luck.
And the third guy I want to mention is a guy that might take a few people by surprise, but Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson of the Seattle Seahawks, Super Bowl champion 2 years ago, should have won the Super Bowl last year, as we all know. Unfortunately,
Got a big contract this year, too.
got a big contract. Here's a guy that's a multi-dimensional quarterback. I mean, this guy threw for almost 3,500 yards, 20 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, plus ran for 849 yards and 6 rushing touchdowns.
you go.
849 yards is good for a running back.
He's like getting a running back and a quarterback
And the same
in one player.
You're right.
And the kid is 25 years old, and also they gave him a little present this year. His name is Jimmy Graham.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
again, a guy that didn't have a ton of support.
Right.
At least at tight end and wide receiver, and then you put a guy like Jimmy Graham into the mix, and it's gonna make a huge difference for
Now you
for
got
Russell Wilson.
so knowing that those guys are kind of like no-brainers, and I know that on your list of players to avoid are 2 of the guys that are, or actually all 3 of them are usually in the top QBs.
They are. They have been. They are slipping fast.
Okay.
Don't say that. One of them is my guy.
So far, I've liked the show because I've Aaron Rodgers. You called him number one.
Well, you know what? I mean, one of the guys that you're probably referring to is Matt Stafford. I mean, Stafford 2 years ago had a monster year. But he's very inconsistent.
Okay.
He goes as Calvin Johnson goes.
Yes.
And it's just one of those situations where he's just, for me to make him, he's a borderline number one quarterback in my mind right now because he's too inconsistent and he's too reliant on Calvin Johnson. You know, he's a guy that I would avoid.
Okay.
The other two guys are going to probably knock you off your chairs, but you know, Peyton Manning is a guy that I avoid this year.
Wow. Yeah, that's a surprise.
Well, let me
you
tell
know, and I
why.
have to tell you, as a dynasty football league that we have, I thought Peyton Manning, if I was going to trade him, this would have been the year.
You know what? My philosophy on trading players in dynasty leagues is better to trade a year too soon than wait a year too late.
But you know what? It's hard to trade a guy like that. We're coming up on the break, so let's move through them.
All right, quickly. Again, Peyton Manning, 39 years old, health is a question. New offensive coordinator in Gary Kubiak. He's going to push to get that team to run a little bit more. You know, the loss of Julius Thomas is going to hurt Peyton Manning in the red zone.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely. Peyton
Not getting a
Manning-
lot of those 2-yard touchdowns anymore.
Yeah, you know, and Peyton Manning is just not cut out to be the type of quarterback that you would put into that system. He's not mobile at all. And then finally, Drew Brees. Drew Brees, 36 years old, still has something left in the tank. I'm not going to say he's going to be a complete bust this year, but what I will say about him is 2 huge losses.
Jimmy Graham
and Kenny Stills. You know, I mean, that doesn't leave a whole lot for him to throw to, and you know, again, he's 36 years old.
Again, I was just going to say, another guy who's getting up there.
So that's what I'm thinking. It's a changing of the guard that we're about to witness. You know, the Peyton Manning and Drew Brees and you know, those types of guys that have been the star quarterbacks.
All right, now, 3 guys that aren't probably, not that they're not on your radar, but they're just slightly off your radar.
Okay, here's a couple of guys. I have a good friend, Dennis, who used to call into our fantasy-based football show all the time. He's a huge Oakland Raiders fan. Watch Derek Carr this year.
Carr, okay.
New coach, Jack Del Rio. New offensive coordinator, Bill Musgrave. They're going to look to develop that offensive line. They're going to get a ground going with Latavius Murray. Big additions. They added Michael Crabtree, and they drafted 4th overall Amari Cooper.
Right.
Okay? Carr was a good quarterback last year. He's going to take a big step forward this year. I see him as a top 8 quarterback this year.
Wow.
I see him moving up that far. Ryan Tannehill, you know, another guy that people have liked for the last couple of years. He's a good guy to grab in the middle rounds. They added Kenny Stills. They added Jordan Cameron. He's got more weapons. He's got another year under his belt. I see him taking a step up. And the last guy I would throw out there is Joe Flacco, the Baltimore Ravens. New offensive coordinator, Mark Trestman. This guy knows how to run an aerial attack. He knows how to move the ball through the air. Justin Forsett's going to be more involved in the passing game. Joe Flacco is going to go from a very good quarterback to a great quarterback this year.
And I love Justin Forsett. But we're just getting started here in the Glory Day Show. Right after a quick break, we'll head to Dallas to kick off today's extravaganza with our good friend Steve Lanzer, and we'll talk about what used to be, I guess, America's team. The Cowboys team. Waiting in the wings is John Zeiss and Greg Kohler, and we'll get to all of them right after this short break. Stay with us. You're watching the Glory Day Show with Bruce and Disco, only on the Radio TV network. Coming right back.
For over 60 years, Hanson Carpet has put the customer first, providing only the finest quality products and service. And Hanson Carpet is so much more than just carpet. We also carry a wide selection of window blinds and shades, and our licensed and insured technicians can service any of your flooring or window covering needs. Browse our huge selection of laminate, carpet, linoleum, vinyl, and tile. Stop by our showroom today or visit HansonCarpet.com. No matter what your project, Hanson Carpet has got you covered. The world of advertising has changed. Radio, TV, and newspaper revenues have declined drastically. Why? Because businesses have realized that advertising return on investment isn't what it used to be. So what can we do about it? Well, that's easy. Advertise online. Own a local restaurant, real estate agency, or even a national retail chain? Whatever your business, InRavio can get your message out there. And we can do it at a fraction of the cost. Call today and see the difference for yourself. This isn't TV. This isn't radio. This is InRavio.com.
Welcome back to the Glory Days Show with Bruce Disco here on the InRavio TV network. Mike Ferrara is here in the studio with us today. Last time we saw our next guest, he joined us live in the studio to talk on the baseball extravaganza as part of the Mets and Yankees discussion. And while his team from the Bronx is squandering their playoff chances as we speak, although they won yesterday, he is here to talk about his other passion, the Dallas Cowboys. As a Giants season ticket holder, it must be painful to see the Cowboys come into New York once a year, but I wonder what jersey he wears for that home game. Please welcome back to the program our good friend and fellow fantasy football owner who traded me Peyton Manning 2 years ago, Steve Lanza. Steve, are you there?
I am here. How are you, boys?
Good, man. How's it going?
How are you, Steve?
Hello, fellow Met fans.
Hey.
Yeah, there we go. There we go.
We don't believe that for a second.
I'm rooting hard for you. Come on, 30 years of dryness. I can't wish anything bad on Met fans. I have a lot of Met fan friends. So
Well, you know what's funny? This is the first year that I really haven't cared what was going on with the Yankees. You know what? Every year, as the Mets are going down the tubes, I start rooting against the Yankees just so that I don't have to worry about it. But this year, I really don't care. But anyway, we are here to talk about the Dallas Cowboys, who a lot of teams, a lot of pundits, I guess, are they prognosticators?
Yes.
They think the Dallas Cowboys are going to win this division.
Boy, they don't know what they're talking about. Listen, for the Cowboys, you know, their season ended on a precarious note. I thought it was a catch. Many Cowboy fans did. Many Cowboy haters didn't. But, you know, I think what goes around comes around because they were quite lucky the week before against Detroit.
Yes.
So coming into the season, you have a lot of hope, but you have no running backs. So I don't know what their game plan is going to be. They're going to go by committee with Randall and McFadden and Dunbar. Mm-hmm. And maybe by the end of it all, they'll be using Ray Rice. Who knows? Because I don't see.
Hey, listen, he's available.
They could have the 7 blocks of granite blocking for them over there and keeping Tony Romo upright. But they can blitz him. And if the Cowboys don't have any running threat, I don't know the type of success that they're going to have going forward offensively.
Steve, we have Mike Ferrara here. He's a fantasy football guy, so we've invited him to join us. And I wanted to ask you though this, you know, because you've won a couple of championships in our league, you know how important a running back is to a team.
Absolutely.
You know, you had a guy who was. He wasn't the MVP last year, but he could have been. He was at least a fantasy football type MVP last year. How do you come back from losing a guy like that?
We're going to find out, aren't we? Because I don't see, you know, Joseph Randall's got a lot of explosiveness, but a little fragile. We all know about McFadden. Nobody knows about Dunbar. So, like I said, we are, you know, you're going to see Tony Romo either on his back or standing up and throwing down the field. And, you know, they're a little thin at running at our wide receiver. So, you know, if anything happens to Bryant, you know, you're stuck with a couple of really second-string type players. I mean, I like Beasley because he's kind of a Welker type, but again, fragile. So,
you know what, Steve? I'm going to give you a little hope here because, you know, we've seen flashes from McFadden, and you know, throughout the time that he was with Oakland, he didn't have the luxury of the offensive line that he's inheriting now with Dallas. So I think you have a shot at getting some production out of him. Of course, it's going to be nowhere near what you guys got out of DeMarco Murray last year. And for the life of me, I don't understand why they let Murray go after that ridiculously good season.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I mean, it really is. I mean,
I think they're outsmarting themselves, and they could have shot themselves in the foot here, thinking that with all those carries and with his health issues, except for last year, that maybe it wasn't worth the long-term contract he was going for, which obviously I get. But
yeah, and I mean, he had the fumble issues to deal with, but still, I mean, look at the numbers from last year.
Those numbers equate to over, all the carries that he had too.
Right.
He had the most carries in the NFL.
Yes.
So, I like.
Dude,
I said,
he ran for 1,800 yards.
Yeah, right.
Offensive line's got something to do with that, though. And the offensive line has something to do with
Yeah,
that.
absolutely.
And they do
No
have a great
question.
offensive
We're going
line.
to talk about him a little bit later when we talk about busts, but yeah, I mean, I think you've got a shot with McFadden. If, as you said, if they can keep Romo on his feet and Des Bryant stays healthy, I think you got a shot.
You don't think they're
I'm
team
not
to beat
giving
in
you
the
the
East?
division.
You don't think they're the team to beat in the East?
Who would you pick in the East?
Right now, I think it's
Not the
tough.
Giants.
I think the Giants have
Really?
as good a shot as any team in that division.
Well, now you've lost all credibility. But I'm thinking that the Eagles again will be a very difficult team to beat, especially now they're going to shove Murray down everybody's throat. And they do, they do have the guy they got from San Diego who's always hurt too.
Right. They got Ryan Matthews.
Right, Ryan
Of course, they
Matthews,
still have Darren Sproles.
Right.
But you know what? They brought in a new quarterback. I believe they brought in a new receiver too, if I remember correctly. And there's a lot of moving parts going on in Philly right now. It may take them a while.
And you know what? They're pinning their hopes on a guy who hasn't been able to stay healthy, Sam Bradford.
Yes.
Well,
yes.
that's the key.
That guy hasn't been able to stay on the field. As much as I always thought, I always really wanted that guy on my fantasy team. But then was so disappointed I couldn't draft him, but then was so happy in week 2 when he gets carted off the field every year.
Well, I'm going to still pick the Cowboys for the division because I just think the Giant defense is abysmal, and maybe Beckham comes back to the pack a little bit too. Maybe Cruz isn't 100%. So there's a lot of ifs going on with every team. But the Cowboy offensive line, I mean, if anything, it got stronger this year with Collins being added to their team. So they have 6 first-rate offensive linemen.
No question.
So even if they take a hit, they have another guy that rolls right in there for them.
Right.
So they're going to pancake people. So I have a little bit of enthusiasm. I'm just worried about injuries because these guys are getting hurt in training camp when they're playing 5 downs.
Yeah.
They're tearing MCLs. They lost Scandrick, who was their best cover guy on defense. But I think the Cowboy defense improved a lot with Randy Gregory and Greg Hardy after 4 games, and Sean Lee will be back. Let's see if he can stay on the field. But their defense and keeping Marinelli was very, very important. They almost lost him last year, the defensive coordinator. So,
they've gone 4 straight years now with the same coaching staff.
Correct.
And
I think
you
that
know what? A
shows.
lot of NFL teams don't have that type of stability.
That's right. So that's why I think their defense is going to be a little more surprising, and they're going to have to be a little tougher. But I think they can handle the East. They had the best record in their division last year. I don't expect that to change too much. They'll probably. I don't think they're going to lose to Washington again. They might split with Philly. Maybe they'll split with the Giants, but they seem to have had the Giants' number for the last 3 years. So we'll see. I mean,
Well, it's been 20 years.
We're going to see, my friend. I've got the date circled on my calendar already. It's September 13th at 8:30 p.m., my friend.
Well, it's been 20 years since the Cowboys won a Super Bowl, and they've only won 3 playoff games since then. They're 3-8 in the playoffs since they won that Super Bowl.
How can I see gloating over a phone? How can I?
Listen, you're talking to a Jet fan here. The gloat isn't in our vocabulary.
Guess what? The Jets go to visit Dallas in December.
Oh yeah, that's right. We're playing the.
I hear a road
NFC
trip.
East.
I think we should go on a road trip. What do you
Listen,
think?
your brother lives down there.
Well,
He
he
can
lives
put us
in
up.
Houston, yeah. I mean,
I don't know, how far is Houston from Dallas?
it's far. It's not as far as from here, obviously, but.
Let me ask you one question, though, Steve. What do you think of the Cowboys' schedule this year?
I was just getting to that actually. I think they have a very tough schedule.
Very tough schedule.
They're playing. They're not only playing Seattle and New England, the 2 Super Bowl reps, but they've got Green Bay.
Yep.
And 5 of their last 8 games are away. Very difficult. With the second to last one being in Buffalo. So
yeah, I think the schedule is going to be a real issue.
They got the Saints too, which are probably rebounding. They got the Falcons, which have a great passing attack, and if the secondary is a little beat up, Julio Jones can run right through them there. So it's going to be difficult.
Yeah.
But anybody can beat anybody in the NFL. We all know that.
All righty, man. So let's go to the Stone.
Get stoned?
Let's find out.
Let's have the call later on.
Sammy Stone.
Brightness here.
Sammy Stone.
You got him.
Tell me the future.
Okay, ask me.
Do the Dallas Cowboys make the playoffs this year?
Maybe, maybe not.
I'm sorry.
All right.
That's a
Jury's out
wishy-washy
with him.
That's as
answer.
good as you're going to get.
All righty, Steve, thanks.
Hey, one last thing, if
Sure.
you don't mind.
Sure.
Okay, last year I gave you a player to watch, which was DeMarcus Lawrence. I'm going to give you one this year. I'm going to give
Okay.
you this guy, offensive guy, this guy, Lucky Whitehead. We might see him returning lots of punts for the Cowboys. And I'll see you
Lucky
boys on
Whitehead. Okay.
I'll see you on Saturday.
boys on
We're
Christmas
gonna pop
Day.
that Whitehead on September 13th.
I'll see you boys on Christmas Day. Christmas Day on the draft. That's
Nice
how I like
talking
it.
to
For
you,
men.
Steve.
It's
All
Christmas
righty,
Day.
man. So
Take care.
Steve Lanza reporting on the Cowboys. Steve is a member of our fantasy football league. He's the Cosmic Debris is his team name. So let's talk a little
appropriate.
bit about
running back
running backs
situation.
now.
All right, let's talk about running backs. We kind of got into it a little bit. I mean, listen, there are some very, very obvious choices here. I mean, Jamal Charles is the Cadillac of running backs this year. You know, he got off to a slow start last year due to an ankle sprain. Still wound up with over 1,000 yards, 9 touchdowns.
Not worried at all about his injuries?
Not even a bit. 40 receptions. He's going to be the focal point of the offense. He's going to get his 250 touches. As long as he stays healthy, and I believe he will, he is absolutely your number 1 pick at running back. Le'Veon Bell should have been the number 1 pick.
Right. Why isn't he?
Well, he's got a 3-game suspension to start the year. You know, with a lot of guys this year.
Suspended.
A lot of
guys getting
this
high,
year.
man.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, I'm looking through these rosters, and I'm like, each team seems to have 2 or 3 guys that are suspended for alleged steroid use. But Le'Veon Bell last year, 1,361 yards rushing, 8 touchdowns, 83 receptions, 854 yards, 3 receiving touchdowns, 23 years old, just a super back to have. And then finally, Eddie Lacy, again, another guy with a slow start last year. First 4 games last year were slow, still finished with over 1,100 rushing yards, 9 touchdowns, 42 receptions. He's still going to emerge in the passing game. The loss of Jordy Nelson is going to help Eddie Lacy. So those are my 3 must-have.
Who are the guys to avoid?
Okay, well, you know what? Unfortunately, Arian Foster is a guy that would have been a top 5 running back coming off the year he had last year. Just can't seem to stay on the field. You know, it's very unfortunate. He had a major groin injury. They had to reattach.
I think they're going to put him on that PUP list. I really do.
You know what?
They're talking about 4 or 5 weeks.
I've heard 2 to 4 weeks, and I've heard 10 weeks.
Well, we spoke to the
the
guy
PUP
from
list gets you 8 weeks.
We spoke to Trey Looney from Houston.
Yeah.
And he said that they're probably not going to put him on the PUP list.
That's
but,
what I'm
But the
hearing.
more I keep hearing about how bad he might be injured, I mean, I don't think it's a season-ending thing, but if they don't put him on the PUP list, how effective is he going to be, even when he comes back? Week 6, week 7, week 8?
It doesn't matter. And you know what? With that type of injury, all it takes is one really sharp cut to send him right back onto the
And then he's
the
done.
IR,
He
and
could
then
be
he's
done for his career.
Yeah, I mean, a guy you just have to avoid. You know, I've actually seen a couple of people protect him who are extremely optimistic people in my mind. I don't do it. We were just talking about DeMarco Murray with Steve. This is a guy that I avoid this year.
And he's on Philadelphia this year.
He's on Philadelphia. He's going from the number 1 offensive line to a decent offensive line. They're not horrible, but here's the situation with him. 1,800 yards rushing last year, 13 touchdowns, 57 receptions. Now he's sharing touches with Ryan Matthews, who was signed to a 3-year deal for $11 million. Okay? So they didn't bring this guy in to sit on the bench. They've also got one of the best pass-catching running backs in Darren Sproles. So I'm hearing there's a possibility that they're going to alternate series.
And you know what? If they do that, like you said, his value goes from here to here.
Yeah, waters it down. Waters it down.
Listen, all you can say is there will be a very dramatic decline in his production this year. You can take that to the bank. And then the last guy I would avoid is Ryan Matthews for the same reason.
So you got two Eagles that you have
know,
on a avoid list, huh?
We've gone away from the days, for the most part, where we've got the workhorse back, who's in there every down.
Yeah.
But when you've got 3 really talented guys in one backfield,
There's only one football.
there's only one football. There's only one ball.
So now 3 guys that we, again, on your radar, maybe not number 1 picks. We spoke about 2 of them already. Justin Forsett,
Yes.
who is my guy. Carlos Hyde,
Yeah.
who used to be Bruce's guy. And you talked about Darren McFadden.
Yeah. Again, just to quickly recap on those 3 guys, Justin Forsett had a great year last year. He is a guy that, for his age, does not have a lot of wear and tear. He's going into the Trestman offense. He's going to be more involved in the passing game than he ever was. He's going to have a big year. He's going to have a big year. I mean, he rushed for 1,300 yards last year, and I believe there'll be an improvement over that, which is why I categorize him as a sleeper. Carlos Hyde, he's finally getting his opportunity.
Right.
Frank Gore is
gone to Indianapolis.
He went to Indy, and it's.
See, I think I should have did a little more homework because I did not protect him.
But
I
Hyde
can still
is
get him, though.
You can. I mean, Hyde's the type of guy who he's not going to catch 50 passes, but he's got a lot of talent, and he's on a great team.
But again, he's the difference between Carlos Hyde and Justin Forsett. Forsett proved it last year.
Right.
Forsett got the job done.
Right.
Carlos Hyde didn't get a chance. It's
I
all
just hope it's
potential
not a
right
case of
now.
Exactly.
Jekyll and Hyde with him.
Exactly. And then finally, we spoke about Darren McFadden.
Yeah.
You know what? It's now or never, Darren. This is your shot.
And they got a great offense. He's running.
They've got a
great
great
line.
offensive line. They've got a lot of weapons. It's a totally different thing for McFadden now. I mean, he's played on teams with lousy quarterbacks.
Yep.
No skill players around him. No offensive line. He's going to a team where he's going to have all of that. I can see him being a very solid number 2 running back all season.
Well, I just want to put a star next to that for the draft this next week. Sorry. That's one of the things, by the way, that I hate about this whole thing, because I'd rather have the information all to myself. As an owner, you never want to give this information out.
I'm praying that the general isn't watching the show right now.
But he might be catching it on the replay. Who knows?
He's busy taking notes.
When's your draft, by the way?
I have 4 of them. They're all first next week.
I want to talk
Starting
about
Monday.
that. I want to talk about being in multiple leagues.
Yeah.
But we're going to take a short break here for the 2015 Glory Days, etc. And when we come back, we'll talk about the New York Giants with John Zeiss. But we're not done. Greg Kohler's waiting in the wings to talk about the Jets. Stay with us. You're watching the Glory Days Show with Bruce Disco on the Radio TV Network. We're coming right back.
over 60 years, Hanson Carpet has put the customer first, providing only the finest quality products and service. And Hanson Carpet is so much more than just carpet. We also carry a wide selection of window blinds and shades, and our licensed and insured technicians can service any of your flooring or window covering needs. Browse our huge selection of laminate, carpet, linoleum, vinyl, and tile. Stop by our showroom today or visit hansoncarpet.com. No matter what your project, Hanson Carpet has got you covered. The world of advertising has changed. Radio, TV, and newspaper revenues have declined drastically. Why? Because businesses have realized that advertising return on investment isn't what it used to be. So what can we do about it? Well, that's easy. Advertise online. Own a local restaurant, real estate agency, or even a national retail chain? Whatever your business, InRavio can get your message out there, and we can do it at a fraction of the cost. Call today and see the difference for yourself. This isn't TV. This isn't radio. This is InRavio.com.
Welcome back to the Glory Days show here with Bruce and Disco here on the Radio TV network. Mike Ferrara is joining us in the studio today. Our next guest is a tried and true New York Giant fan.
Stahl?
Okay.
I could read it. All righty, he's a tried and true New York Giants fan since about 1963, I think. He's appeared on this program more recently with our previous guest, Steve Lanza, on the Glory Days baseball extravaganza to talk about the Yankees. But today he returns as the Renthal Cup champion.
Yeah, that's
the champion of our league.
Title.
Is that like this?
Our trophy's about this big.
Yeah.
It's like the Stanley Cup.
You know what?
We engraved the name and we hand it off. We have one trophy we've been having
It's
for
like the
35
Stanley
years.
Cup.
Jeff Gallio, if you're watching, come on, man.
There you go.
Come on.
Give it up.
All righty, please welcome back to the program John Zeiss. John, are you there? The owner of Slice of Zeiss. Are you there? Still trying
we're
to get
trying
him.
to get him. Oh, that was what the stall was about.
Well, then
okay.
you know what? Let's talk about the Giants anyway.
All right, let's get going with them.
It
All
was
right,
a
we got
great
issues and
intro, though.
concerns here, fellas.
Yeah.
We have issues and we have concerns with this team, but I still believe in this division they have as good a chance as anybody to win. You know, they're coming off a 6-10 year last year.
Victor Cruz had a horrific injury.
You know, without Victor Cruz, you know, with really only a half a season of Odell Beckham Jr., they have the skilled players. You know, Manning is in the second year of that new quasi-West Coast offense. I think he'll take a step up in it this year. He's got Odell Beckham. He's got Ruben Randall.
Right.
He's going to have, in my opinion, a healthy Victor Cruz. At some point, maybe not right out of the gate, but I'm thinking Cruz is going to be fine. Decent running backs. You know, they brought in Shane Vereen, which I think is a good move. And, you know, Rashad Jennings is still Rashad Jennings. He's going to help out. Larry Donnell took a step up last year. The defense is definitely a question mark. But
Especially that secondary, huh? They're
yeah.
very suspect.
By the way, I think we fixed our technical difficulties.
Okay, I'll shut
I think
up.
we got John on the phone. No, you don't have to shut up. I would have told you to shut up if you needed to. John, are you there?
Yes, good morning.
Hey, man,
John.
good morning. How are you?
Okay, how are the boys doing?
We're
all
doing
doing
okay.
good,
We
man.
have Mike Ferrara in the studio today with us to talk about fantasy football. So we were filling in while we waited to get you on the phone.
Did you let him know that I'm the fantasy football
Of course we
champion?
did.
Of course we did.
John.
And I hear that your
Trophy.
trophy is bigger than my.
Oh, yeah, he's...
Mike is the fantasy football champion of his league.
Nice to speak to a fellow champion.
Are you on the beach yet?
No, in fact, the way it turned out today is I have IKEA coming. They'll probably ring the bell in a minute.
Okay. Timing is everything.
So now you've been a tremendous Giant fan. You've been to a lot of games. We had some guy on before. I don't know if you ever heard of him. Steve talked about the Dallas Cowboys, and he thinks that the Dallas Cowboys are going to win this division. Did he say that?
Oh, he pretty much guaranteed it.
He guaranteed that the Dallas Cowboys are going to win the division. Now Mike thinks that the Giants are going to win this division. What do you think?
Oh, I think the Giants are very suspect this year. As far as the prediction for Dallas, I mean, eventually it's got to come true. Probably this year they're looking the best. You got to give them that. I don't know how their running situation is going to be, but they got Sean Lee back. If he's 80-90% of what he used to be, that division, everyone else in that division's in trouble.
Now the Giants went back to Steve Spagnuolo this year.
Yes, of course. Everyone loves him, but I think there's only one guy left from there.
Yeah, unfortunately, a couple of big-name defensive players are no longer with the team, so...
Steve Diassi's still there, or his son, Zach Diassi.
Zach's there.
And you got one guy who's only got 9 fingers.
If that.
Yeah, if that. We don't even know. No one's been able to see it yet.
Got a banged-up secondary. I mean, usually the Giants, they're historically, they're a defensive team that winds up, as long as the offense plays okay, they'll be all right. This year, I think their strength is their offense and not their defense.
Yeah, no question. Yeah, I agree with you that the defense is definitely suspect. I think there's enough on offense to overcome that. And I think with the schedule that the Giants have versus the schedule that the Cowboys have, I'm not guaranteeing that the Giants will win the division, but I think they have as good a chance as anybody.
Well, one thing is we're waiting to hear what's going to happen with this Brady thing because they're playing Dallas in their 4th game.
Mm-hmm. New England.
New England's playing Dallas, yeah. So, if Brady's out 4 games, Dallas gets a break there with backup quarterback.
Now, what do you think about, Coughlin's been your coach for a long time. They asked Jerry Reese if 2015 would be a win or else proposition, and he said, I don't think that's an unfair statement. Do you think this game has moved beyond Coughlin now? I mean, he is the oldest coach in the league.
69 years old.
I think if they have a poor showing this year or if they don't, meet expectations, I think he'll probably make a move.
Now with Beckham last year, obviously he had the great rookie campaign, and he did it without much else around him. He had no Victor Cruz to help take him. He still had 12 touchdowns. I mean, he had a year last year in only 12 games. He had a year that would have been great for anyone who had 16 games.
Yeah.
And now hopefully Cruz is back. Are we going to get to see him tonight? Is Cruz going to play tonight?
No, he's not.
Okay. So what do you think about Beckham? Do you think, it seemed last week that they played the Jaguars last week, right? The preseason game? It seemed like the Jags were
teeing off on him.
Teeing off on him, exactly.
Well, he was on the Fan this week, and he said, you have to expect that. And he said he's not going to change his ways. He said, guys who defend balls dance just as much as guys who catch balls. But Beckham, though, is not going to be a surprise anymore to them. So they're going to be preparing for him. They're going to know him a little more. If Cruz is back and he can, find those slots, they could be working with. But
I'm not worried at all about the offense. I mean, I think the addition of Shane Vereen is going to really help to loosen things up for Manning. I do believe that Cruz will be healthy enough to play in the slot and take some of the pressure off of Beckham. It's a matter of how quickly they can pull the defense together.
How about the offensive line, though?
The offensive line, they did draft, I forget the kid's name, but they drafted somebody. They're in the process of rebuilding the line. It's certainly suspect.
Rick Berg is going to be the center now.
Eric Flowers.
Yeah, Eric Flowers, thank you.
So
Shuffling that line around, Eli's going to need time to pass. If he can find out a way to dump the ball off, the Shane Vereen may help.
That's what I'm thinking.
That's true.
And I'm thinking Victor Cruz, in the slot is going to help him there too. You use the other two guys to stretch the field, and it's going to open up a lot of things underneath.
I mean, besides the injuries to both the offensive and the defensive line last year, they lost Cruz. They lost the cornerback, Thurman. They lost their linebacker. And their number one running back, Rashad Jennings, for a while. And they still finished 6-10. So they're going to have a better than 6-10 year this year.
Yeah, I
At least you
definitely
think.
I would-
Again, as long as the injuries don't come back
Right.
and bite them.
Well, the other thing they used to say a long time ago, your best offense is a good defense.
Yeah.
You need the ball, and you need the ball in good situations, not when you're down by 3 touchdowns and you get a few mop-up touchdowns at the end.
Right.
I mean, you got to establish a running game early,
Yeah.
and then give Eli some opportunity to either pass or throw. I mean to run or pass.
He threw 30 touchdowns last year
Yeah.
with only one receiver really to throw to.
So, John, is a playoff berth in the offing for the Giants this year?
Yeah, I'm really nervous about it. So
Well, we're going to ask the expert,
Well, we're gonna ask the
Sammy
expert.
Stone here, okay, to see what he thinks about that.
All right.
he's still alive.
Sammy Stone,
That's right.
tell me the future.
Okay, ask me.
Will the Giants make the playoffs this year?
That ain't gonna happen.
Okay.
Sammy Stone says no. The Stone has spoken.
All right.
All righty, John, thanks.
Okay, boys. I
We'll
hope
see you. Don't
See you.
forget, next weekend when we have our rental draft, bring the trophy with you. Everybody likes to see it.
That's right.
Okay,
And maybe I'll steal it from you.
All right, we'll put some Bud Light in there.
That sounds good.
Yours is big enough to hold Bud Light?
Oh, yeah, it's a
You
cup.
know, I guess size doesn't matter.
No.
Oh, I don't know. Ask your wife about
My
that. I
wife
don't
tells
know.
me that at least. I don't know.
All righty, John, thanks.
Take care, guys.
All right, that's our good pal, John
Just
Jace.
rang.
Beautiful IKEA.
All righty, we're going to take another short break here on the 2015 Glory Days Extravaganza, and when we get back, we'll head. We'll
Why don't we
talk
go
about
with the wide receivers, though?
Oh, right, yeah, we're not
Yeah.
going to take a break. We're going to go to wide receivers first.
Do that. All right.
Let's do that.
All right. Let's start with the must.
Yes.
Must.
These are guys you must have.
You must
If
have.
they're there,
You
you're
have
going to
to
take
have
them.
You have to have these guys. Des Bryant, Dallas Cowboys. Last year, 88 receptions, 1,320 yards, 16 touchdowns. The loss of DeMarco Murray makes him the focal point of that offense. He's going to step up and just have a huge year. Antonio Brown.
Okay.
Pittsburgh Steelers. 129 receptions last year.
Wow.
This is like in a PPR league.
Right.
He's just a monster. 1,600, almost 1,700 receiving yards, 13 touchdowns. Again, just a great receiver, certainly a number one. One of my personal favorites, we touched on him a little bit already, is Odell Beckham Jr.
Yep.
Now, you mentioned last year 12 games
12
only.
games, that's all he
Missed the
played.
first 4 games. Didn't actually start getting targeted until 3 or 4 games after that. He was only getting 3 or 4 targets a game
Right.
the first 4 games he played. So he put up 91 receptions, 1,300 yards, 12 touchdowns in 12 games, and really the first 3 of those 12 games, he was a non-factor.
And he probably went undrafted in most leagues last year.
He was drafted
Because
late.
he was hurt at the beginning
He
of the
was
season,
drafted
yeah.
late.
I think in our league he was a waiver pickup.
Okay. The return of Cruz is only going to help him. Okay. They can't key on him and let Cruz run all over the field and catch 12 balls a game.
Right.
He is to me the most exciting wide receiver in the game right now.
And he's on the cover of Madden Football, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so we have the possible Madden jinx.
There you
Yes.
go. You got to factor that in
That's
the
always a
equation,
factor.
too.
We'll ask the Stone about that later. The
Now,
bust.
so now let's talk about the guys who we think,
Well, you've got 2 really unfortunate situations this year. 2 major injuries. 2 really great running wide receivers that are already lost for the year. Both with the same type of injury. Jordy Nelson and Kelvin Benjamin. Jordy Nelson was a top 5 guy. Benjamin was a top 10. It's really unfortunate that they're going to miss the entire season, both of them. Another guy I stay away from is Roddy White.
is that because of Julio Jones?
Partially because of Julio Jones, but he's 33 years old now. He's no
I
longer
mean, last year he disappeared last
He
year.
did. He's no longer the deep threat that he used to be. Atlanta's going to go with a more balanced attack now, under Kyle Shanahan. So, I think you can look at Roddy White. and
How
there's
many
no-
more Shanahans are there?
There are a lot of them.
They're like the Sutter brothers
They
in
are.
hockey.
Yeah. But yeah, you know what? Roddy White, no better than a number 3 receiver this year, and those are my 3 guys that I would stay away from. The sleepers, I really like Torrey Smith going to San Francisco this year.
From Baltimore.
From Baltimore. Baltimore was always a run-first team. You put him together with Kaepernick in that San Francisco offense. I think Torrey Smith is going to be a guy you want in your lineup every week.
Especially if you have Joe Flacco. No. You know what? We didn't even talk about Colin Kaepernick and how far he's dropped.
Yeah. But I think Kaepernick is going to take a step up this year with Smith. Here's a guy that I liked a lot last year, and I love this year. And unfortunately, I love him this year at the expense of Jordy Nelson. But Davante Adams on the Green Bay Packers. This is a guy that really showed a lot last year, showed some real flashes of brilliance. Steps right now automatically into the number 2 role with Randall Cobb. Davante Adams is a big sleeper this year. He's not a guy that I would wait to
Well, you know what? In our league, a guy who had him protected him.
Okay, I wouldn't take him in the first 5 rounds, but don't wait until round 10. He's not going to be there.
He's not going to be there.
He's not going to be there. And then the other guy that we talked about a little bit already is Victor Cruz. I think Victor Cruz is really super motivated. I think he's really happy to be back. He's worked his butt off. I think he's going to be healthy. I think
That's the whole thing with him.
Yeah, I think he's going to be healthy. He's going to be working the slot. I think with Beckham on the outside and
Well, exactly. We talked about how having Cruz is going to help Beckham, but I think having Beckham is going to really help Cruz, especially because he's been injured, and Beckham right now is the guy that everybody's talking about.
Yeah.
He may just be able to.
Well, think about it. 2 years ago, it was Cruz that was drawing the double coverage.
Right.
That's not going to happen this year.
Yeah.
So if he's healthy, if he's 90% of what he used to be, he's going to have a very big year.
Alrighty. When we get back, we'll talk about the mess that is our New York Jets with Greg Kohler. Stay with us. You're watching The Glory Days Show. We're Bruce and Disco, only on the Radio TV network. We're coming right back.
For over 60 years, Hanson Carpet has put the customer first, providing only the finest quality products and service. And Hanson Carpet is so much more than just carpet. We also carry a wide selection of window blinds and shades, and our licensed and insured technicians can service any of your flooring or window covering needs. Browse our huge selection of laminate, carpet, linoleum, vinyl, and tile. Stop by our showroom today or visit HansonCarpet.com. No matter what your project, Hanson Carpet has got you covered. The world of advertising has changed. Radio, TV, and newspaper revenues have declined drastically. Why? Because businesses have realized that advertising return on investment isn't what it used to be. So what can we do about it? Well, that's easy. Advertise online. Own a local restaurant, real estate agency, or even a national retail chain? Whatever your business, InRavio can get your message out there, and we can do it at a fraction of the cost. Call today and see the difference for yourself. This isn't TV. This isn't radio. This is InRavio.com.
Welcome back to the Glory Day Show with Bruce and Disco here on the InRavio TV network. Mike Ferrara is joining us in the studio today. You might know our next guest as one of the founders of the Fire John Idzik movement that swept the New York metropolitan area last year with billboards and planes imploring Jets owner Woody Johnson to fire general manager John Idzik. He won't admit it. But I think that without that movement, Idzik might still be here at least. They might have gotten rid of Rex, but I think Idzik would still be here. Instead, the Jets have a brand new management team with GM Mike McCagnon and a new coaching staff led by former Arizona Cardinals defensive genius Todd Bowles to go along with a new attitude and something that we Jet fans haven't had in a long time, hope. Please welcome back to the program, Greg Kohler. Greg, are you there?
Pretty good. How's it going?
All right, man. How's it going with you?
Pretty good. Pretty good.
All righty. So let's talk about the Jets. 4-12 last year. Cleaned house. Everybody's gone. Rex is gone. Idzik is gone. It's a brand new start out here.
A couple of Geno Smith's teeth are gone.
I thought the circus was gone, but the circus hasn't left town, I don't think, with some of those things.
Greg, I have a third guy with us today. Mike Ferrara is here today. We've been talking all day about fantasy football.
Oh, nice. I'm a huge fantasy guy myself.
How you doing, bud?
Pretty good. How's it going?
All righty, so let's talk about the Jets. I mean, we touched a little bit on it last time we spoke to you during the Geno Smith debacle. But you know what? They seem to have recovered okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. My off-season optimism has led to preseason pessimism in typical Jets fashion, I guess. I've been able to watch a couple of the preseason games. I know they're playing again tonight, and I don't think I love this team. I have a hard time getting a feel for who they are. Their defense that we all thought was going to be wonderful does not look so. I've heard out of camp, Cromartie, obviously in the games he gets killed, but practice every day he gets absolutely killed on the outside. Revis looks a year older. I don't know. I don't like either of our safeties. I don't know. I'm starting to get down on them, to be quite honest with you. I was all pumped up in the off season, but watching what I see on the field right now.
Well, you know, I really don't think they've given us anything to go on so far.
No, they haven't.
You know, they haven't performed well offensively. Obviously, they started out with a game plan for Geno Smith and suddenly have to change it.
Yeah, and the thing that bothers me though is that in both preseason games, you know, when the starting defense was out there, they gave up touchdowns to both those teams. You know, and the starting teams didn't stick around long. But you know, as you said, Greg, I mean, going into the season, we really felt the strength of this team was the defense, and they haven't shown anything yet. Now, maybe it's just the preseason. Maybe they're not looking to show things. You know, I mean, the first week, I think you always say, well, you know what, we were practicing against ourselves. It wasn't the same kind of speed and things like that. But last week, I think, was disturbing in that they gave up a touchdown, too.
Yeah, what bothers me so much is our secondary. I don't think Pryor is any better than he was last year, which means he's not any good. And if we're going to depend on that, I think we're in trouble. Again, Cromartie not looking like he is. D. Milner, of course, you're never going to get that guy on the field, I don't think. Even what's the other guy from last year, McDougal? He looked awful last week. He looked lost. So I don't know if the depth is really going to be there at corner either. I know everyone loves Leonard Williams. I have to remind everyone he didn't do anything against any starting string players at all. He didn't start making plays until second and third string guys are in there. So let's all relax on him a minute. They, as you said, they've shown us nothing. And
So-
that really scares me.
So is this team going to win the Super Bowl this year?
I'm thinking, I'm more thinking of a winning record and finish 500.
I'm thinking no, is
I
what
gotta be honest,
the
it's
Sammy
worst-case
Stone would
scenario.
say.
Well, you know Sammy Stone is going to say, I think so. Well, you know, one of the things that they said about Bowles is that obviously he's got to change the culture on this team. And he's been a fairly good disciplinarian so far. You know, he's making them run gassers if they take too many penalties during the things. He's been very tough with them in meetings and stuff about paying attention and stuff. But the sad thing is, why would you have to do that? I mean, these are professional football players. They should be.
Because he inherited a team from Rex Ryan. I mean, that's the reason why. You know, and everybody loves Rex. He's a player's guy, a player's coach. But you know what? That team really lacks discipline. They've lacked discipline for a number of years. And I don't think it changed that overnight, unfortunately.
No, and you look at the really successful teams. The Giants have, I mean, they didn't make the playoffs for the last couple of years, but they're looked at as one of the more successful franchises. We make fun of the Patriots a lot and Bill Belichick, but man, they're always there.
They're a
every
machine.
year.
Yeah.
Why? Because they listen to the coaches. There's a certain code of conduct within the ranks of the team. And the Jets have not had that since, I don't know, probably the 80s with Walt Michaels.
You know what the glaring thing for me is, though, and it's just been forever, since I'm a kid. I actually started off as a Jets fan. You guys might be interested in knowing when I was 12. But anyway, the Jets have never, in my opinion, had an elite quarterback.
Sure.
Not
Name
since Joe
one.
Namath.
He
Even
wasn't
Joe Namath
even
wasn't
an elite
elite.
quarterback. I mean, how do you go 30 years? I mean, you had Favre at the end of his career, and it wasn't really Favre, but, you know, I mean, it just baffles me.
So you're
how
saying
they
Ryan
can't-
Fitzpatrick isn't this guy either, huh? And,
No.
and neither is Geno Smith.
No. You know, and it unfortunately, when you have that situation and you have a good defensive team, and you've got some skill players, you have Brandon Marshall, you have Eric Decker, you know, you brought in Stephen Ridley.
Right.
You know, the skill guys aren't horrible, but you just don't have the core, the quarterback that can make it all happen.
Well, listen, you know, they had a chance at Marcus Mariota this year, but they blew it by winning 2 of their last 3 games.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You know, they do all these things to us, and Greg, you could attest to this because you're a Jets fan. They're so terrible, and when we really want them to lose, they don't.
Well, what's nuts is, and the reality is, they're probably a 9-7 team, 8-8 team this year, probably. Which, I mean, the reality is, and everyone kills fans for saying this, that's like the worst case scenario.
Sure, it's in the middle again.
It
Because
is.
after this year, half of these guys are not going to be on the team. Because I don't think that Bowles is truly going to be able to put his stamp on this team until half of these guys are off the team.
Yeah.
He has to get rid of these Rex Ryan guys in order to instill what he really wants to instill.
Absolutely.
And that's not going to happen this year. So he's still a year away from that happening. They need to build a young core of guys who they don't have. They have a young core of defensive linemen. They don't have a young core of players on this team. And until that happens, going 8-8, 9-7 is just it's brutal.
Right, it's the worst thing that could happen.
It really is.
Mediocrity.
So that's all it's going to be, and that's all they're ever going to be, because that's all they ever are, right? I think Samini said it best. I was reading Samini's little blog on ESPN. He ended his little post today by saying, someone asked, like, I've been a Jets fan for 30 years, and they always break my heart. And he's like, 30 years? You don't know heartbreak. And it's true. I mean, it's just, as you said, they never get a quarterback. There's nothing that ever works.
It just
out.
baffles me how an organization can go 3 decades without having
Like panned out on one pick. Just one.
Yeah,
One,
you figure
one pick
even a blind squirrel finds a nugget.
You would think, right?
Every now and then, you know what I mean? They just can't.
They can't do it.
It's frustrating
I like
as a Jet
McCagnon.
fan.
I think if given the opportunity, McCagnon can put something together. I really do. I think he's a good evaluator. But 8-8 is going to make it really difficult for them.
I think they're going to make the playoffs, but we're going to ask the
Let's
Stone
find
Man
out what he
says.
says. Sammy Stone,
That's right.
tell me the future.
Okay, ask me.
Will the Jets make the playoffs?
That ain't gonna happen.
Ah, there it is.
Listen, I think this guy's right on. I got to get me one of these.
You know what?
He hasn't missed
We've
yet.
asked him questions since the beginning of August, and I think every one of them has been either no or I don't think he said yes at all. I'm thinking yeah. All righty, Greg. Thanks.
Hey,
Thanks
guys,
a lot,
thanks for having
man.
me on. Appreciate it. Let's go Jets, right?
Let's
Yeah,
go. Let's maybe
let's
they'll beat the
go
Giants tonight.
Yeah, exactly. And in the meantime, we can enjoy the Mets. So
Yeah,
Yes.
that's exactly
All
right.
right.
Let's go Mets. We can all agree to that, right?
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Let's do that.
I tell you.
All righty, man.
Thanks, guys.
Greg.
Have a good one.
That's
All
a
right,
great caller.
So continuing on with our expertise.
You know what?
on
Let's do this though. Instead of doing that, I do want to take a break. Is that okay, guys? Can
Yeah.
we do the break now?
Okay.
All right, I do want to take a break.
When we come back, we'll talk about the
rookie
the
players.
rookies.
Rookies.
And we'll wrap up for the weekend. Stay with us. Watch the Glory Day Show, Bruce Disco, only on the Radio TV Network. Coming right back.
For over 60 years, Hanson Carpet has put the customer first, providing only the finest quality products and service. And Hanson Carpet is so much more than just carpet. We also carry a wide selection of window blinds and shades, and our licensed and insured technicians can service any of your flooring or window covering needs. Browse our huge selection of laminate, carpet, linoleum, vinyl, and tile. Stop by our showroom today or visit hansoncarpet.com. No matter what your project, Hanson Carpet has got you covered. The world of advertising has changed. Radio, TV, and newspaper revenues have declined drastically. Why? Because businesses have realized that advertising return on investment isn't what it used to be. So what can we do about it? Well, that's easy. Advertise online. Own a local restaurant, real estate agency, or even a national retail chain? Whatever your business, InRavio can get your message out there. And we can do it at a fraction of the cost. Call today and see the difference for yourself. This isn't TV. This isn't radio. This is InRavio.com.
Welcome back to the Glory Day Show with Bruce and Disco here on the InRavio TV network. Mike Farrar is here in the studio with us, and we're real glad you came today.
Yeah, I had a good time, fellas.
I can't wait to hear about these rookies, though. I mean,
Well,
you know.
in the world of fantasy football, a rookie can be a hit or a miss proposition.
Yes,
Okay. So let's talk
yes.
about the guys who you think that might make an impact. Again, immediate impact.
You know what? Again,
on
as
your
you said,
footballing.
rookies in the NFL are a complete crapshoot.
Yes.
Absolutely.
You really can't think of many guys that come in and make a big impact in
Except you
their
thought
first
about
season.
Andrew Luck being one of those guys.
There are
right?
some
You know?
guys, but they're few and far between. A couple of guys that have a chance though this year. Melvin Gordon out in San Diego, running
Okay.
back. Looks like he's inheriting the starting job from the go.
Ryan Matthews, yeah.
He's got some talent around him. He's not going to have to carry the entire load himself. So he's somebody I could see having a respectable impact this year. Another guy we talked about earlier was Amari Cooper. Him I like a lot. I really like a lot. I think that him,
Especially if you were talking about how you think David Carr is going to have a resurgence this year.
yeah, I think David Carr, along with Michael Crabtree and Cooper, are going to take the Oakland Raiders to a level that we haven't seen them at in a few years.
They've really, the Oakland Raiders in the last couple of years have been like fantasy kryptonite.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The Raiders, the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yeah.
Even last year, Kansas City, which, they haven't thrown a touchdown pass to a wide receiver in 2 years or something.
Right.
Right. The Raiders, I think, are going to make some noise this year. They have to.
Yeah.
They've got the tools in place, I think.
I
this
do.
This kid is going to be something.
Yeah, I agree. The guy I like a lot too, and I'm not usually big on first year quarterbacks.
Yeah.
But Jameis Winston in the Buccaneers, I like him. I like him a
Number one
lot.
pick?
Yeah, I like him a lot. I mean, he's got a great arm, and I think pairing him up with Mike Evans. Another really young stud
Right.
of a wide receiver. If I'm a Bucs fan, I'm pretty happy right now. They're in a position that is the total opposite of what we just discussed with the Jets.
Yeah.
You've got a couple of really good young guys to build around, and you can get excited about your future. If you go 8-8 this year, that's okay. You don't have to worry about having the number one pick. So I like that a lot. Marcus Mariota, you mentioned him as a possible Jet. Unfortunately, that didn't happen for the Jets. The jury's out on him. The situation with him is he ran a pretty complex offense in college. He's going to go to more of a pro offense now. He's on the Titans.
But to me, that's the biggest difference between the two guys. The Bucs have a much better team. The Bucs were a team that was put together well, but didn't have a quarterback.
Right.
Tennessee is just a mess.
Yeah, they're a mess.
And you're bringing in a rookie quarterback in a mess. That's
That
tough to
sounds
do.
like a
Right.
recipe for disaster.
He's a guy that's going to take a little bit longer to mature, and it depends on how they're going to use him. Are they going to let him run? I don't know. I don't know that they're going to risk injury with him early in his career.
Well, you look at a guy like RG3, right? I mean,
Yeah.
one shot and you're done, man.
Yeah.
And RJ3 was one of those guys that did shot out of a cannon.
Yeah.
He came into the league. He was fantastic, and then boom.
Yeah.
That's the problem with those running quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Any other rookies to look out for?
The last guy is Todd Gurley in St. Louis.
He's a girly man.
The thing about him is he's more of a draft and stash kind of guy. He's coming off an ACL injury. Had it not been for that, he may have been the number one overall pick. I mean, he's that good. So they're going to build their offense around him in St. Louis. It's just going to take a little time. He's not going to be 100% at the start of the season. But
Who's the running back on St. Louis? Trey.
Trey Looney? No.
But anyway, that was the guy who broke out last year.
yeah.
And then they picked this guy right behind him.
Yeah.
Again. So he's a, like you said, he's a draft and stash guy.
Yeah.
Especially if you're a dynasty league.
Right. Right.
And we were talking. I wanted to ask you before about being in
Multiple leagues.
multiple leagues.
Mm-hmm.
Is it difficult to be in multiple leagues, or do you have, like, obviously you might have a favorite league and you're just in the other leagues to be with some friends or family or stuff? How do you balance leagues? I mean, what if you have a guy in one league but you have a different guy in the other league? How
Right.
do you root for?
Well, here's the problem. Here's the only problem. Is on any given week, your player that you're counting on your team is a player you're playing against in another league. So there's always that conflict. But I
do you
really
try to draft the same guys?
I do, not for that reason, but I do just because.
You think they're better players?
I think they're the guys that I think are going to give
Gotcha,
me the most return. But it is interesting. The interesting part about it is every league that I'm in is a different group of guys. It's a totally different scoring system. So and I'm an addict, so I can't say no. People say, "Hey, Mike, you know, I'm making it a league. You want to join?" I'm like, "I really can't. I'm in 4 leagues. My wife's going to divorce me." Okay, but I'll do it. You know, so but it's a lot of fun. I mean, you know, football. My wife, God bless her, knows, and my kids, God bless them, know that. You know, there's a little part of the week that I carve out for the Admiral, and it starts at 1 o'clock on Sunday, and it ends whenever I fall asleep on Sunday night. And that's my one little piece of the week that...
We're like preparing for the draft. You know, we're getting ready for our draft. Our draft is actually next Saturday. And, And the other night, I was up and I was working on it, and my wife walked past me, and she says, "Oh my God, again."
Yeah, there you go. She says, "They're back."
She says, I'll see you in January. But you know what? It's an obsession. Fantasy
It is an
football
obsession.
Is an obsession.
The only thing that keeps me, you know, allowed to do it, you know, by my wife is I usually win enough money to at least cover my own expenses.
You buy your wife gifts, right?
And what I do, Mr. B, is anything that I win at the end of the year, I say, "Here, honey.
There you go.
Yeah,
This is for
you take this.
Putting up with this.
You go out and get a little Botox or something." No, but it's all good. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. And
you
the
know
thing
what
about
else?
football is it's not as time consuming as baseball.
No.
It's a once a week thing.
That's true.
You know, so
And right now, our problem is that for years, by the time August came, as a Met fan, you could start working on your fantasy team in the beginning of August. All of a sudden, we can't.
The
We're
Mets are
watching
looking great,
Met
huh?
games. They're playing so well.
Yes.
I did some interesting math the other day. Okay. If the Mets just go 500 the whole rest of the year, okay, the Nationals have to go 24-7.
yes.
You know?
Yes.
They're not going to play 24-7 ball. But then again, the Mets had a 7-game lead with 17 games
Anything
left.
can happen. That's right. I mean, I saw
You know
your
what?
blog. You said, you know, I'm not drinking the Kool-Aid yet because, you know what, we haven't clinched the playoffs.
See, I'm drinking it, unfortunately. I'm drinking it, but, you know.
I was
I know
drinking
you
in
are.
April. I took off in June, but
Yeah.
I've been drinking it
But,
since
you know,
then.
here's the situation. That math is really a compelling argument because, you know, if you think about it, the team that finishes in second place in the National League East probably will not make the playoffs.
That's right.
They're
Absolutely.
probably not going to make the playoffs as a wild card.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to win the division. The Mets have found themselves in a position right now where they are just, you can feel, you know when you kind of feel it's their year. You know, things are kind of
we don't get this
magically
feeling
That's the way
happening.
it's been. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
they were down 5 runs the other night. You know, earlier in the season, you said that game is over. You
Yeah.
know, they're not hitting in the clutch.
I
and
mean,
that's it. Now you're
tough
saying,
loss last night. They
Yeah.
blew a great game from Harvey, but you know what?
We can't win every game.
We can't, but we don't have to.
We don't have to.
We
right
don't
now.
have to.
You
Good
know
news
what?
last
We-
night is they lost, but the Nationals
Washington
lost
lost
too, so
too,
we didn't
so-
lose any ground.
You know what? The magic number.
Yeah.
It went down to 29 last night.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
29 wins.
That's
29
beautiful stuff.
Met wins or national losses.
Yeah, what it's going to take right now is for the Mets to play respectable ball down the stretch. You know, play 550 ball. They don't have to win 7 out of every 10. They don't have to now.
You know, and you know what?
Washington has to now.
Washington has to, and I'm not positive that they're capable of doing that.
I don't think that
Not
they
with
are.
You know what I mean?
Span
This
being
is
hurt
not
too, right?
like this is not like the last collapse that the Mets had in 2007.
Right.
Okay, in 2007, we were ahead by a lot, and we were playing ball, and the Phillies were playing very well.
Right.
And all of a sudden, we were looking in the rearview mirror.
Right.
And you know what? If you're the leader, you shouldn't be.
You have to have
looking in-
blinders on. You
can't be
know, all we
looking
got
in
to
the
do is
rearview
win our
mirror.
games, and we don't have to worry about anybody else.
Exactly. And you know what? Right now, we're not really looking, as Met fans, we're not, I mean, we're paying attention to what's going on in Washington, but right now I'm not looking in the, because Washington hasn't given us any
Let's
reason
look at what
to
the
look.
Mets have right now. I mean, when they made the trades for Uribe and for Kelly Johnson, I was actually pretty upset because
Yes, you were.
I really thought that was going to be that was.
And I called
You
you
put
out
me in
on
my
that.
place. But, they brought in Cespedes. Now they're a team. They've got Wright back. They're getting Matz back probably next week.
Right.
This is a deep team suddenly.
It's not playing.
It's a team with a great starting pitching staff.
Right.
It's a team with a deep bench. this is a good team.
The only thing that bothers me, though, is that the bullpen, which helped them out at the beginning of the season, they're not playing. They're not pitching too well right now.
And one of the things is right now, hopefully, once we get into September, there's going to be a lot more players that they could pick and choose from.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that it doesn't, mess the chemistry or whatever. But I'd like to just see them get to September, and actually, I'd just like to see them get to that Washington series, Labor Day. We got one more week. We play really well this week, and we could still maintain a 6-7 game lead going into that series.
And who we're playing? I mean,
Nationals.
we're playing the Red Sox, the last place team. We're playing the Phillies next week.
Yeah.
You know, so
Well, listen,
Listen, Washington has put themselves in a position where they have to sweep.
Yeah,
They have to sweep
2
us.
out of 3 doesn't do
it.
2 out of 3, and all we did was lose 1 game.
Yeah.
You know, so
Pressure's on them.
You know, I do want to say one more thing before we finish today. This week we, as Islander fans, and I know you're a Ranger fan, but as Islander fans, you at least have, as a Ranger fan, you have to at least have respect for Al Arbor,
Yes.
the coach of the Islanders, who passed away this year. You know,
Yesterday.
yesterday, and. What a record! What an achievement! Do
you know,
he
I didn't
also
realize
won
that he won so many Stanley Cups
as a player.
You know, I mean,
class,
I knew,
class
you know,
act.
Yep.
Big loss for hockey.
you
Big
know,
loss for hockey.
And
You know, I was a little disappointed he didn't show up for the last game at the Coliseum, but I guess
Now you understand,
now
yeah.
you understand exactly
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You know, so Al,
R.I.P. baby.
thank you, man.
Yep.
Without you, you know, the Islanders would be in Kansas City somewhere.
It's true.
I really think so.
True.
You know what? This has been a lot of fun.
Great show, fellas.
We're looking forward to this the fantasy football this year, and we're looking
Yeah.
forward to the Mets playing some good ball too.
And we're going to, all right, so let's just go one more stone.
Okay.
All right.
Oops, wrong way.
Right.
Sammy Stone,
That's right.
tell me the future.
Okay, ask me.
Will Mike Ferrara repeat as his fantasy football champion?
That ain't gonna happen.
I think the jury would like to hear that, man. You know?
Sammy Stone,
Yo,
Yeah.
tell me the future.
sure, ask away.
Will Mr. B's Hammerheads win the Remful
I'm
Cup?
busy now.
One more time. We're way over anyway, so. Sammy Stone,
That's right.
tell me the future.
What, are you nuts?
Sammy Stone,
Yo,
tell me the future.
hey, speak English.
Get rid of
One
him.
more chance. Sammy Stone,
You got him.
tell me the future.
You just gotta ask.
Will Disco's Juicers win the Remful Cup?
Maybe, maybe not.
Why do we waste time?
Very non-committal,
with
that
Sammy
Sammy Stone.
Stone.
Well, we got to sign off now. So
All right.
thanks to our producers, Kyle Melnick and Eric McCullough, for their hard work and making us look so good out here. Thanks to our correspondents, Steve Lanza, John Zeiss, Greg Kohler, for helping us out today. And special thanks to our studio guest today, Mike Ferrara, for giving us his insight to some great fantasy football advice.
Thank you. And if you're not doing anything later on today, my band will be playing from 1 to 5 out at Osprey's Dominion
Out on the
Vineyard.
North Shore there.
Out on the beautiful North Shore in Peconic. Come on out, have a glass of wine.
And you can check out Mike's band page, Anna Jam Band, on Facebook, or their website, annajamband.com. Thanks again, Chuck and Bonnie, putting up with this nonsense week after week. And of course, thanks to you, our loyal viewers. Don't forget, check out the Glory Days On Demand page, www.radio.com. Watch any of our past shows. I guess we're out of here.